Today, Novak Djokovic is again the world's top-ranked tennis player.
Now, Novak Djokovic won a record-breaking 23rd Grand Slam title at Roland Garros on Sunday, and many now consider him the greatest tennis player of all time.
24 Grand Slam titles, the most in the history of men's tennis. 428 weeks as world number one, the only man to hold all 4 Grand Slams simultaneously twice. Novak Djokovic is not just the greatest tennis player alive. By almost every measurable metric, he's one of the greatest to ever play the game.
When I was saying I want to become number one of the world and I was 78 years old, most of the people were laughing to me because it seemed like I have 1% of chances to do that.
Novak Djokovic, what are you doing?
The world number 2 gets the better of the world number 1.
Djokovic reigns in Australia once again.
Oh, you've got to be kidding me! Novak Djokovic with a moment of absolute brilliance.
Had absolutely no business.
Novak Djokovic, you'd have to say he's the best player in the world.
Oh, that's unreal!
Down but not out.
He is not just the heir to greatness, he is greatness. But Djokovic, can't let me, could not have hit the ball any better in that rally.
Novak's deal when he gets on the tennis court has always been a fascinating thing to me.
He wants to be the greatest, he wants to win more tournaments, break all the records in tennis history. I mean, he's a fantastic player.
Novak Djokovic as the greatest tennis player of all time.
If you look at the stats, if you look at, the pure game of tennis, he's the greatest of all time and nobody comes.
He just beat me like a drum.
He's the best I ever played.
Who's the best? Djokovic.
Djokovic. Tough.
Born in June 2024 while competing at the French Open, during a grueling 5-set 4th-round match, something went wrong. Djokovic's right knee gave way. He played through the pain, won the match, but an MRI the following day confirmed what he feared: a torn medial meniscus.
Novak Djokovic, the defending champion in Paris, has had to withdraw. It is a knee injury. He's been having an MRI scan today and has revealed a torn medial meniscus.
He withdrew from the tournament and went straight into surgery. Novak Djokovic is lying on an operating table in Paris with a torn medial meniscus. The medical consensus is 4 to 6 months of recovery, but he was back in 29 days. He walked out on the grass at Wimbledon, went on to the final, and then a couple of weeks later, he was standing at the Olympic podium with the gold around his neck. How much had to go right surgically, neurologically, physiologically to turn a 4-month recovery into 29 days? Today, we're going to break that down completely because the science here is extraordinary and most people have no idea that it exists. This is not a story about talent. This is a story about engineering. Welcome to Starcase. I'm Avnish Parekh, Head of Strategy and Growth at Vital Insights. This story has 3 phases: resect, rehab, and ready. Phase 1, resect. The choice that made everything possible. 37 years old, competing at the highest level, you tear a meniscus, you have 2 options. The decision carries enormous consequences. Option number 1, a full meniscus repair. The surgeon stitches the torn tissue back together and leaves the body to heal biologically. The advantage, your joint is preserved for long term. The shock absorption function of the meniscus stays intact. But the biological healing process is slow. We're talking 4 to 6 months to return back to game. The season is gone, potentially more. Option 2, a partial meniscectomy. The surgeon removes the torn flap entirely. It's gone, and this is where it gets interesting. By removing that fragment, the surgery eliminates what's known as a mechanical block, the piece-torn cartilage that was physically jamming inside the joint with every movement. The moment it's out, weight bearing becomes possible almost immediately. When it's logical to choose option 1 to avoid long-term problems, Djokovic with his medical team decided option number 2. That single surgical decision set the entire 29-day timeline into motion. The precision of the cut, the speed of the recovery in a partial meniscectomy is not about removing the torn tissue, it's about how cleanly you remove it. The surgeons use a duckbill punch, a specialized arthroscopic tool to resect the unstable portion of the tear. Getting this right is half the problem. Immediately after, an arthroscopic shaver was used to smooth the remaining rim of the cartilage to a perfect edge to prevent reactive synovitis. The smooth edge prevents it from ever starting. This detail matters more than most people realize. If you leave a rough edge on a cartilage, the edge frays under load. Every time the joint moves, the rough surface creates friction against the synovium, the membrane lining the joint. That friction triggers an inflammatory response called reactive synovitis. Synovitis means swelling, severe persistent swelling that locks down range of motion, slows rehabilitation, and adds week to the recovery timeline. It is the most common reason an otherwise successful surgery turns into a prolonged, complicated recovery. Phase 2. Rehab. The hidden enemy, the nervous system. Here is something that surprises most people when they hear it. After a joint trauma or surgery, the nervous system makes a decision. It reflexively shuts the quadriceps, the large muscle group at the front of the thigh that is responsible for stabilizing the knee and controlling its movement. It does this not because of pain, it does this as a protective reflex, a phenomenon called arthrogenic muscle inhibition or AMI. The brain essentially decides the quad contraction poses a risk to the healing joint and pulls the plug on those motor units. The problem is that this reflex unchecked causes rapid and significant muscle atrophy. Within days of surgery, the quad begins to waste, and without quad strength, you cannot protect the knee under load, you cannot return to sport, and the entire timeline collapses. To fight this, Djokovic's rehabilitation team used something called neuromuscular electrical stimulation, NMES. Electrode pads placed on the skin sending controlled electrical pulses directly into the motor units of the quadriceps, forcing them to contract whether the nervous system wants them to or not. The neural block is bypassed, the muscle stays alive, the clock keeps running. Most people were confused. Why was Djokovic on a bike 2 days after surgery? And this was not to maintain fitness, it was to use the knee as a mechanical pump. Here's a fundamental fact about the cartilage that changes how you understand recovery. It has zero blood supply. Unlike bones and muscles, cartilage cannot draw on a vascular network to deliver nutrients and remove waste products. It relies entirely on the mechanical movement, on the physical compression and decompression of the joint to push the synovial fluid in and out of the tissue. Synovial fluid is the joint's nutrient delivery system. It carries oxygen and metabolic substrates into the cartilage and clears out inflammatory cytokines, the chemical signals that drive prolonged inflammation. This is why Djokovic was on a stationary bike almost immediately after surgery, using the knee as a mechanical pump, low load, high repetitions, every pedal stroke creating a gentle cyclic compression that flushed the joint and cleared the inflammatory debris and bathed the traumatized tissue in fresh synovial fluid. Running would have loaded the joint destructively, cycling did the biological work without the damage. Hyperbaric oxygen therapy, the accelerant. Interventions that we have covered so far are all local, focused on the knee itself. But to compress a standard recovery timeline from months down to 29 days, you need systemic interventions. You need to accelerate the body's repair machinery at a whole body level. Djokovic is already a long documented proponent of hyperbaric oxygen therapy. The concept is straightforward, but the physiological effects are significant. Inside a pressurized chamber, you breathe 100% pure oxygen at atmospheric pressures greater than sea level. Under these conditions, oxygen dissolves directly into blood plasma, far beyond the capacity of standard hemoglobin-bound transport. Plasma oxygen levels surge. The two key effects on surgical recovery. First is interstitial edema, the fluid swelling in the soft tissue surrounding the knee reduces significantly. Swelling is volume, volume is pressure, pressure slows healing, less swelling means faster rehabilitation progress. Second, elevated oxygen accelerates angiogenesis, the formation of new blood vessels surrounding connective tissue. Better vascularization means better nutrient delivery to the structures supporting the knee. The result? A rehabilitation workload that would have overwhelmed a standard patient becomes sustainable, making the 29-day window possible. Phase 3, ready. Why was Wimbledon the right court to return on? Day 29, Wimbledon center court. This was not sentiment, it was biomechanical strategy. Every surface in tennis produces a different ground reaction force, the force transmitted back through the body on each step and each landing. Grass, because of its natural yield and compression, produces lower GRF than hard courts. Less vertical shock reaches the knee with every movement. For a joint 6 weeks out of surgery, the difference is meaningful, but grass brings its own demand. The surface is unpredictable and slippery, which means it's an extreme demand on proprioception. The meniscus itself is densely packed with mechanoreceptors, the sensory nerve endings that feed proprioceptive data into the brain. When you cut into the meniscus, you don't just remove tissue, you destroy a significant portion of that sensory network. The brain suddenly receives less information about what the knee is doing. The joint is partially blind. For a healing knee, this is the ultimate neurological test. Every slide, every plant, every change in direction on this surface is processed by the joint's sensory receptors and fed back into the central nervous system in milliseconds. The fact that Djokovic survived 5 sets at Wimbledon final 29 days post-surgery was a proof of concept that the neuromotor systems were restored. The proprioceptive chain was intact. The knee was ready for violent eccentric deceleration on the Olympic clay courts in Paris. The clinical endpoint. Paris, August 2024, 34 days after. Novak Djokovic beats Carlos Alcaraz on clay to win Olympic gold at 37 years old, completing a career golden slam, the only man in tennis history to win all 4 Grand Slams plus an Olympic gold medal, the oldest Olympic singles champion in the history of the sport. This is what science produced. A partial meniscectomy that eliminated the mechanical block, surgical debridement that prevented synovitis, NMES that bypassed arthrogenic muscle inhibition, synovial flushing that kept the cartilage alive, hyperbaric therapy that compressed the systemic recovery, and a surface progression that stress tested every system before the final stage. None of it was luck. Every day of those 29 days had a physiological purpose. You've trained for years, you know what it takes to perform, but your body is capable of way more than you think. What looks like a miracle from the elites is just high-quality science applied precisely. Every episode of Starcase, we take moments that defined careers, the performances that rewrote record books, and we break down the engineering that made it possible. Because if you're serious about your performance, understanding the science is not optional, it's your edge. See you in the next one.